Before we start, I just wanted to say please do not harass any of the artists and creators mentioned in this video. This is not a hate video or a witch hunt. This is simply a discussion and dissection of a situation within the art community. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I encourage you to seek out other sources and perspectives and form your own opinion, but please do so in a productive and respectful way for everyone involved. Recently, I've come across a video titled, "YouTube has a pyramid scheme problem," a video you might have also seen. It was posted by the channel Morgue Design, and it accuses artists on YouTube of being, essentially, scammers. You've probably seen these types of videos before. How much money I make as a full-time artist. How I make 5K a month, 8K a month, or even 10K a month as a full-time artist. Maybe you've even watched these type of videos and thought to yourself, hey, if they can do it, maybe I can too. For a long time, these videos have been pretty standard, and basically every big artist on YouTube has had one or several videos about income, business strategies, and success. But then another channel made a very bold accusation against these types of creators and video formats. They claim that it's a scam. Basically, the artist puts in big, bold letters that they are a full-time or professional artist in their title and thumbnails, but when they break down where they actually make money, the majority of it isn't from art. Usually it's from sponsorships or brand deals, monetizing content, or selling a course. Art seems to take a big side role compared to these other streams of income. Let's talk about the accusation being made against big artists here on YouTube. The creator of the video, Morgue Design, makes a claim that these "how to become a full-time artist like me" videos are a pyramid scheme. That these artists are recruiting you by dangling the promise of making a career out of your art, when in reality, they aren't even making a career off of their own art. They're making money off of selling you the idea of being a full-time artist. Now, I'm not going to use the word pyramid scheme moving forward. I honestly see the connections Morgue made. I see how the word recruitment resonates with them and how it can seem like these creators' business model relies on them pitching their lifestyle to aspiring artists who may be inexperienced. But multi-level marketing is a serious accusation, and it doesn't quite fit the situation because these creators aren't training their recruits to recruit more artists. They don't necessarily tell them, hey, go sell a course on how to make a course. The pyramid scheme accusation is not where I'll be spending my time in this video. I'll be focusing on questioning if there is dishonesty, false advertising, or scams going on. Although there are several people depicted in Morgue's thumbnail, the video focuses heavily on one person, Kelsey Rodriguez. Kelsey Rodriguez is an artist and YouTuber who focuses her content around coaching, business advice, and strategies. She has many videos on her channel for free and offers paid coaching. Before I get into analyzing, I want to point out something extremely disappointing about this whole situation: the personal attacks on Kelsey. Many people rushed to the comments of the video to say, I always had a bad feeling about Kelsey, I never liked her. Which is fine, I guess. But then some people took it a step further in saying that they just cannot stand the way Kelsey talks or looks in her videos, that she has annoying mannerisms or is too close to the camera. And as you can tell, this adds nothing to the argument. This is just petty and mean, so let's not resort to bullying someone's appearance. But personal attacks aside, this is the general idea of the situation here. Are these artists lying to us? Are these artists selling false hope, false promises, that we, the viewer, can successfully make a living off of making art, when they aren't really living that life themselves? I want to say something in defense of Kelsey. In defense of all the types of artists this video claims to be grifters. I think there's a fundamental lack of understanding of art careers in this video. The truth is, it is very difficult to make money solely off of art. Morgue knows this. They made a video talking about how it's discouraging to them that after posting their art for so long, the video that ultimately blows up is the one about this controversy. Careers surrounding art are complicated because you have to take into account the type of art you make, how it's consumed, and who is buying it. For example, someone who paints oil paintings, someone who makes handmade mugs, and someone who does graphic design are going to have wildly different experiences. One thing they have in common, though, is self-employment. That's the hook of these videos. Being your own boss, working on your time, and doing your passion as a career. It sounds like a dream, but anyone who knows the basics of self-employment and small business know that it is far from easy. When you are self-employed, the way you make income is very different than traditional jobs. There are many different ways to sell art, like selling physical items in an online shop or at markets, applying for grants and galleries, commissions, and freelance work. I'm going to focus more on markets and art shops because those seem to be the most commonly featured in these sort of aesthetic, full-time artist YouTube videos. I feel like every artist has had the thought of opening a shop at one point. You see other artists on YouTube talk about day in my life as a full-time artist where they spend all day making art, posting it to their Shopify or Squarespace, and then shipping off hundreds of packages and making money. Maybe you thought of doing polymer clay or stickers or prints. But here is the unspoken truth. The only reason that shop you're watching in that video is successful is because of that YouTube video you're watching. You can't just post a product on a website nobody knows exists and expect to have customers. This job is a small business, and you have to take on all the roles of that business, which includes promotion, marketing, advertising, and social media management. This is just the reality of this career path. You have to do a lot of work that doesn't have to do with art. I do agree with Morg that successful artists should be transparent about this fact, and I honestly think a lot of them are. In Kelsey Rodriguez's videos, she breaks down how much work it really is and how much of this work isn't art. She is very open about the work she does when talking about it. But sometimes, as Morg points out, the thumbnails and titles of these videos are a different story. I'll get more into that later in the video. For now, let's dive into this question. What is a full-time artist? I think this question is where a lot of the conflict is stemming from. Is a full-time artist someone who makes a livable income off of selling their art? Or is a full-time artist someone who has a successful art business? An art business which, as we discussed, includes more work and streams of income than from art alone. I think some people, especially the ones making these videos, think of full-time as meaning they have quit their day job and successfully make money from their art business, which includes their art shop, YouTube, and other things like Patreon. Morg's critique is this. Are you a full-time artist if you spend the majority of your time filming and editing videos? If the majority of your income is from these videos, not your art? I'm going to explore this through my personal experience as a consumer of these type of videos, as an artist, and as someone trying to start an art business. For those who don't know me, which you don't because I'm a new channel, my name is Ruby. I'm a 23-year-old Filipino-Canadian. I have an honors degree in fine arts where I studied art history, ceramics, acrylic paint, and sculpture. I like video games, animated films, and nature. My original plan after graduating in 2024 was to get my Master's of Fine Arts to pursue gallery or university work, but honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of academic and studio art, or the professional art world as a whole. I also have a chronic health condition, and I really wanted to enter a career that could be flexible and accommodate my sick days. This is when I started to turn to these full-time artists on YouTube. I found working for myself on my own time very appealing. I would watch their studio vlogs, day in my life, and of course, the videos about income and self-employment. Kelsey Rodriguez was one of these creators that I watched as I tried to plan the next steps in my career. Prior to Morg's videos, I never saw an issue with Kelsey's videos. I actually found them quite helpful, especially her How to Launch Your Art Career in 2024, a video that is very transparent about how much non-art related work it takes to create a business off of your art. I didn't find any of this problematic at the time, and I still am not fully convinced that it is, although I do think Morg has some valid criticisms that I'll get into in the next section of the video. When I started dipping my toes in this career, I was very excited about opening a shop and selling handmade art and trinkets. After all, art is the core of who I am and what I want to do with my life, and I'm sure many of you relate. In art school, I was in the ceramics club, and I actually sold a lot of mugs and pins in our club sales. I realized this was something I wanted to do after graduating. I wanted to make handmade items for people to enjoy. I watched Kelsey's video, How to Launch Your Art Career, in 2024, and it helped me a lot with understanding what this path would bring. She helped me understand that in order to sell my handmade items, I would need an audience, and that selling art would turn me into a small business, which came with accounting, management, and so much more. I also made mistakes. Despite being told by the video to prioritize building an audience through advertising, social media, and creating content, I tried to skip the step because it didn't really interest me. I wanted to get right into the art. So I tried making a shop and posting a few Instagram reels and TikToks about what I sell. I got a bit of attention through this, but not nearly enough to actually make sales in my shop. This is when I rewatched some of Kelsey's videos and actually decided to do it right this time. I needed to focus on finding my audience, my community, before I could even think of opening a shop. So I shifted my time and focus from art to content creation. And a little side note, I did consider art markets, which many artists love because you don't really need to advertise yourself since the market brings you customers. But like I said before, I have health issues that make standing at a booth for several hours in a crowded area not ideal for me, which is why an online shop and content creation is the path I want to go down. So from personal experience, I found this kind of content, the guides on art careers and being a full-time artist, helpful. I never paid for a course or for coaching, so I had to figure out some things through trial and error. But by listening to other successful artists' advice and experience, here's a little business model I made. Like I said earlier, when you're self-employed, you are a small business. And as a business, it is simply not possible to create art, post it on a website, and get customers. E-commerce is a whole different world because where are these customers coming from? They don't know you exist just because you posted one picture of your work on social media. Etsy used to be a more viable option with its built-in search engine, but these days, real artists are being drowned out by dropshippers, which is why many artists are opting for Shopify or Squarespace, which is when they run into this problem. Where do they get customers? So since you can't expect people to care about your art without doing any other kind of work or without offering any other kinds of services, and because it's smart to have multiple streams of income instead of having all your eggs in one basket, artists have turned to content creation for these three reasons: generating an audience, monetizing, and sponsorships. Generating an audience. This is creating content like YouTube videos, shorts, TikToks, podcasts. This content is entertainment. It offers value in that people like to watch it. And it's basically advertising and marketing yourself. The goal is to use it to funnel people from within your niche to you. You are gathering all these people who are interested in the kind of content you make, and more than likely, some will be interested in the kind of art you make. Generating an audience is essential for these artists because they can then direct these people to their art shop. The shop that wouldn't have any customers otherwise because people wouldn't know it exists without first seeing this content. This audience can also be directed to Patreon, subscriptions, commission services, whatever form you offer your art in. So by creating content, you are making your career as an artist work. You are marketing yourself and advertising your business through free content. Monetization. On top of creating an audience, content creation has the benefit of potentially being monetized. This starts creating multiple streams of income. This is another thing Kelsey talks a lot about in her free videos, how having multiple streams of income allows for a more stable career. Because if your art shop isn't doing great one month, you have other ways of making money so you can keep paying your living expenses. This way, you don't have to fall back on your day job or go back to a career that doesn't have anything to do with your art business. You also need money to fund your art projects, so of course, having a monetized YouTube channel is very beneficial. Sponsorship. Yet another thing Kelsey talks a lot about. You've probably seen it in all your favorite artist YouTube videos. A few minutes dedicated to a brand that is paying that artist. Paying them money that allows them to keep being an artist and keep creating this content that you're watching and enjoying for free. Yes, the work it takes to make these videos and do these sponsorships isn't directly correlated to making art, but it funds the art business, it contributes to it. It allows these people to keep being a quote-unquote full-time artist because everything they're doing is being funneled back into their art business. I feel like there's also an unfair judgment put on Kelsey, because a vast majority of the successful artists you see on YouTube do this exact model, just like she is. The only difference is that the content they're creating is a different niche. The most popular seem to be the studio vlog, day in my life as an artist, sketchbook tour, more entertainment and relatable style of videos, whereas Kelsey does informative and educational videos. This entertaining content is still made with the goal to create an audience, monetize, and get sponsored. There's even a comment on Morg's video of someone saying they don't like Kelsey Rodriguez's videos because they feel like she's scamming them, but they do like the studio vlog videos from other artists. But they're both serving the same purpose to their business model. They're both profiting off your views in one way or another. Kelsey's videos are in the business and mentorship niche. She even calls it entrepreneurship herself. Instead of entertainment and vlogs, she's offering insight and experience. She doesn't record herself having a cozy morning coffee and running errands and tending to her art shop. She sits in front of the camera and she talks about strategies, numbers, advice. It's a different kind of video, but it has the same goals: create an audience, monetize, and get brand deals. The value in studio vlog content is that it's entertaining. The value in Kelsey's content is that it's giving you advice. Yes, she directs her audience to her coaching services, but the aesthetic artists direct you to their Patreon, their sticker shop, or even their merch. I feel like a lot of the dislike towards Kelsey are people who don't value or enjoy the type of content she creates. So is this a genuine critique of Kelsey, or is this just not the target audience of her videos? So with that thought, let's circle back to what I think the actual problem here is. When these people make a YouTube video and title it, "What I Make as a Full-Time Artist," and then they share that the vast majority of their income doesn't actually come from their art, but from their content creation and courses, it can feel misleading. So is this false advertising? Is someone really a full-time artist if the majority of what they do is content creation while art takes the sidelines? I don't think these artists are malicious, and I don't think they're trying to be deceitful, but some transparency would be appreciated. Misleading is one of the only true faults I can put on these creators. I don't think this can truly be called a scam. And I just want to say that I think you can still consider yourself an artist even if content creation is your main source of income. You're funding your artistic pursuits by having other streams of income to rely on, and that's fine. But if you're sharing your lifestyle and business strategy, I think it's your responsibility to be transparent. I think Kelsey's channel is more connected to entrepreneurship and marketing than it is to art. Business is, at the end of the day, a skill, and it's a skill that you have to learn in order to make money from unconventional career paths. And Kelsey takes on a mentorship role. Teaching is a category of content. The how-tos, the beginner guides, these are videos that will always exist. But by leaning more into entrepreneurship, the art side of it starts to feel like it doesn't really matter, like it's more of an afterthought, rather than the core premise of your business, of your entire identity. But like I said earlier, I needed to hear this business advice to understand what it takes to create this career for myself. I went to art school, not business school, so I really value and seek out business knowledge where I can because it's something I don't know, but I need to learn. And think about why Kelsey focuses on the business side of art business, because that's the side that many artists, like myself, are lacking the knowledge and expertise in. Kelsey doesn't talk as much about the art side because what is there to talk about? Every artist watching her videos are making something different, something unique to them. She isn't going to dive into your painting or stickers or polymer clay because that isn't applicable to everyone. But what is applicable to everyone watching, they're all interested in art business. So that's her focus. She's filling the gaps in your knowledge. So yes, when these big YouTube artists market themselves as an artist above a content creator or entrepreneur, it can feel misleading. And maybe Kelsey agrees because she actually changed the title of one of her videos from What I Make as an Artist to What I Make as an Art YouTuber. It seems like she was willing to listen to the concerns in this video, and maybe she will change the way she advertises herself and her channel moving forward. So is it predatory to sell hope? Is it a scam to offer beginner advice and promise that with hard work anyone can make a career for themselves? Is selling your knowledge and experience the same as recruiting people? Is it unethical to constantly be selling your audience something? I'm not fully sure of what I think yet, but I'm leaning towards a side of no. I think it's okay for YouTube artists to make how-to content. I think a lot of these videos have value and can be helpful for a certain demographic. I found them helpful, and I think that they gave me more of a realistic view and approach to art business. Like I said before, I think we were using full-time artists to mean someone who quit their day job and has a successful art business, and content creation is just part of that business. I also think sharing your knowledge is important. Sharing guides on how to edit, how to run an art shop, how to create a business. These are things that I managed to find for free because of people like Kelsey and countless others who share their expertise on YouTube. I don't think it's a scam to claim that anyone can be successful because technically anyone can do anything. And it certainly makes it more possible when there are videos that give advice on how to do it. Of course, not everyone will be successful because it takes effort, time, investment, and some are just not willing to do that. But I don't think it's fair to label this type of content in general as a scam. But obviously, some people do see this as a problem. Many people commented on Morg's video expressing their discontentment with this kind of content, with being sold the idea that they can be a successful artist. And we need to listen. Some could say they're profiting off of people's vulnerabilities, as they are targeting inexperienced artists looking for how to make an income. Some may see it as selling the lifestyle of being a full-time artist, selling the idea of being a professional artist, and using your success as the hook. So at the end of the day, whether this content is good advice or a scam depends on if you believe people can actually utilize the information given. And at the end of the day, the only behavior you can change is your own. If you genuinely hate the coaching mentorship niche and you don't believe these people are full-time artists, then that's your belief. You can avoid their channels and not buy their products, but other people may disagree with you. They may find this content extremely valuable and helpful. I don't think there will ever be a clear verdict on who's right or who's wrong, but I do think this discussion was interesting and very thought-provoking. And it's a good conversation to have. Especially because I'm a recent art school graduate who wants to be an artist and a content creator. I don't want to be seen as scammy or misleading in my videos, but I also don't want to be valued less as an artist if I lean more into content creation. I do believe in that little business model chart I whipped up, and that's still my plan moving forward, but I want to know what my potential audience, you, thinks about creative business, art careers, entrepreneurship, and what kind of content you actually want to see from a content creator / artist like myself. Which brings me to the final part of this video. What now? Do you think we should discourage artists on YouTube from making these types of videos? Should we stop using the term full-time artist when art isn't the main source of income? How can we move forward in a way that allows artists to keep earning an income while not making their audience feel scammed? I saw someone say they prefer studio vlogs and day-in-the-life videos because it's not putting someone on a pedestal based on their income. But does this mean I should never discuss numbers or business strategies with my audience? Should my authenticity be the focus rather than my success? Should I not create any kind of how to make money from art or content creation videos, even if I genuinely believe I have valuable advice to give other artists? As a new artist stepping into the space, I really want to know what everyone thinks about this. Before this situation happened, I always referred to myself as a self-employed artist or as an art business. I especially know now to avoid the word full-time, and I don't consider myself a full-time artist, because most of my effort goes towards building and maintaining an audience. I do really want to open my art shop at some point, but I need to make content to even get my shop out there in the first place, so I'm leaning more into my role as a content creator and entertainer. What you've been watching in the background has been me making art. But here's the thing, even if I somehow magically had customers who wanted to buy these off me, I can't physically make enough of them to have a livable income. I'm not a factory, these are entirely made by hand, they take me hours, plus the time it takes to pack and ship orders. So to make my art business work, I had to think to myself, what other value can I get from making these keychains? Well, by recording the process, I can make videos. I can teach people how I make polymer clay. And there's the entertainment factor, the process can be fun to watch. I personally love to have studio vlogs in the background while I make art or I go about my day. Nothing would make me happier than my videos being played in the background while other people make their own art or do dishes or cook. I want to make art. I want to make valuable content that people want to watch. And of course, I want to be able to pay my bills and feed myself. This is art business. Yes, I'm motivated to make content because of the money and because of the marketing, but that's so I can keep making art. I can keep making you videos and I can keep making a living doing what I love. So to sum all of this up, I see the critiques. It's valid for people to feel this way. It's clear by all the people agreeing with Morg that lots of you are not happy with the current norm. And I think the best thing to do moving forward is to keep having open conversations like this, to keep the communication line open between creators, artists, and viewers. As a new art channel, I learned a lot about what you guys do and don't want to see from me. So here's what I plan to do as I build my channel. Number 1, not advertise myself as a full-time artist if content creation is most of
Hey bestie, I know you clicked on this video to find out if I'm child-free. Well, here it is. Yes, I'm child-free, specifically, conditionally child-free, which a lot of us women should be. And if you don't know what that means, stay tuned. Men baby trap women all the time, especially women who have high potential or are already high achieving, high earning women. Men love to baby trap these women all the time, especially if he knows that she's too good for him, especially if he knows that she has options. Bad men will baby trap you, have children with you, then disengage, leave, and then use the child to manipulate you and have constant, continuous access to you through the child. So I'm telling you this now, as a financially secured, spoiled girly who has a lot going for her, do not ever let a malicious, below bare minimum low effort man baby trap you. Hey bestie, welcome to the Spoiled Girly Support Group podcast, where we talk about how to get that bag while also securing your own bag. I'm your host Elle, and let's get into it. On today's episode, we are talking about being conditionally child-free and how being so protects us from furthering the lineage of below bare minimum low effort men and the risks and penalties that come with partaking in activities that make you suffer, i.e. allowing a below bare minimum low effort man to access you. We will also cover how you are still creation whether or not you have children biologically. Basically, exploring the worthiness factor of being a spoiled girly, receiving provision from a man, while being child-free. But before we get into it, I need you to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you never miss a spoiled girly episode. With that being said, let's get into it. Whenever I talk about how women are creation, women are the source, I get a lot of spoiled girlies in the comments wondering about what if they're child-free? Are they still the source? Are they still
coming to Tokyo, that something's off with him. Something's not right, but
Real quick before I forget, time is running out on my plushie campaign. If you would like to get one of these guys yourself, please check out the link in the description. Hey everybody, it's Lavender Town, and today I'm going to be continuing my series by the book, where I look at how movie adaptations change book characters and then draw them exactly as they were originally described. And today we're doing an episode on Uglies. In the mid-2000s, Uglies was a very popular YA dystopian novel, and I was a big fan. The general concept was about a girl named Tally Youngblood discovering that the beauty-based society she lived in was hiding secrets about the mandatory beautification operation everyone receives when they turn 16. She grapples with the superficial thoughts and feelings of self-hatred that her society brainwashed into her, and learns how to value herself and others in a different way. I reread the whole book and highlighted every time a character is described. We're going to draw the characters based only on that, starting with Tally. Our first description of Tally is on page 9, where it says, "She put her fingers up to her face, felt the wide nose and thin lips, the too high forehead, and tangled mass of frizzy hair." So right off the bat, we have some pretty good description of her face. We often hear her describing herself in kind of despair, especially in these early parts of the book, where it's clear that everything about her appearance makes her uncomfortable, and she's really just counting down the days until she can be, like, quote-unquote fixed. On page 16, she says, "Not into her squinty, narrow-set, indifferently brown eyes." So we do know that her eyes are kind of a basic brown color and that they're apparently squinty and too close together. These are things that she complains about a lot, and she's always very surprised when anyone compliments her eyes. It's the biggest insecurity for her, them being too close together and squinty. In fact, the squintiness is even such an issue that she's called Squint by the fellow uglies in Ugly Town. So this is really her most major insecurity. We hear her talk about her skin blemishes on page 91, where it says, "Her thin lips pursed with unhappiness. Her hair grew even frizzier because she kept running her hands through it in frustration. A trio of zits exploded across her forehead, as if marking the days since her 16th birthday. Her watery, too small eyes glared back at her, full of anger." So Tally is definitely really unhappy with her appearance. One of the things that really surprised me, we'll get into the direct comparisons of her appearance in the book versus in the movie, but one of the things I did generally just notice, even from the marketing materials, is that it seems like the movie is too afraid to actually cast unconventional looking actors or actors who aren't up to Hollywood standards. I admit that Joey King, she has a bit of an unusual nose, I suppose, compared to some actresses, but overall, I don't think she is way outside of the norm of the beauty standard, and certainly her eyes are very big and round, and her lips are not super thin. You also never see her with any skin blemishes, at least in her 15 to 16-year-old range. So it seems like they didn't want to really commit to that. I would also say her hair is not a tangled mess or overly frizzy. And I suppose if the pretties were more aggressively different than a regular person, if they looked like complete Barbie dolls or like Alita Battle Angel levels of souped up beauty, maybe this would be okay. But I do feel like it kind of felt like a cop-out, especially since it's pretty clear that Uglies is kind of satirizing and discussing the way that Hollywood and the beauty industry and models affect the self-esteem of particularly adolescent girls and boys. So it does seem kind of lame that, for example, David is cast as this actor and Shay is cast as this actress. These are not the people I would have picked if my story was about unconventional or just normal, schlubby looking regular people versus Hollywood. They look very Hollywood to me, and I think it's weird to cast them. As for Tally's body type and shape, we don't have a ton of information. We do know that she often talks about characters being skinny, whether it's characters who have gone through the pretty procedure, or her friend Shay, who she describes as actually too skinny and expects that she'll need to be filled out during her operation. So I'm guessing that Tally herself is on the heavier side of the skinny pretty operation. So I drew her just a little bit bulkier, a little bit heavier. She's also described as looking fast or, being strong. So in general, I just thought giving her a little more mass would be probably pretty accurate. We don't get a ton of description on their clothing, which was something I was always very annoyed about. There were a few things that gave me some indication of what she may be wearing. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is this discussion of how disposable everything was in the city. Almost everything that she wears or uses from the city comes out of the wall. It's 3D printed or something. So everything has a very cheap, thin, disposable quality, according to Tally. She talks about on page 169, city things were disposable and replaceable, as interchangeable as the t-shirt, jacket, and skirt combinations of the dorm uniforms. So I know that's one thing she could possibly wear. I also see that when she goes to the smoke, she gets a sweater. It says on page 162, she couldn't believe that the sweater, brown with bands of pale red and green highlights, cost half as much as the sleeping bag, which was threadbare and patched. So I'm going to draw her in this sweater. In general, my focus is making sure that her insecurities are represented on her. Okay, so let's directly compare the way that Tally looks and is styled in the movie versus the Tally from our book description. Tally's body type, first of all, she does look quite thin, and it seems very close to the body type of a character that she calls skin and bones and refers to as skinny. I also think that in general, like, she should have been allowed to have less perfect skin. I do think they were probably covering things up that would have made her look more accurate to the character. Her hair also, even when she's like almost burning alive or, you know, in situations where her hair should be quite messed up, it's never that frizzy. Additionally, this actress has big blue eyes. You know, I don't think her brown eyes are that important, but I do think that her being called Squint in this movie is absolutely ridiculous. Her eyes are quite large and round. In general, I just don't think they went hard enough. And I also notice that she looks a lot like she's styled like Katniss in a lot of shots. And the Hunger Gamesification of uglies is going to come up a lot when we discuss the movie versus the book, so we'll get into more of that later. But appearance-wise, in general, I don't think it was the worst casting choice, but I think there were styling things they could have done to actually bring this actress closer. Next up, let's talk about my favorite character, Shay. She's first described on page 24, where it says, "Her name was Shay. She had long dark hair and pigtails, and her eyes were too wide apart. Her lips were full enough, but she was even skinnier than a new pretty." Shay is an important character. She ends up being kind of the best friend of our main character, Tally, and she is, very importantly, the first character to really talk to Tally about the potential of the idea that maybe they don't need the operation. She's the first character in the book to really present an idea of like self-acceptance and self-love. She genuinely seems to like the way that she looks, and she doesn't respond the way that a lot of the other uglies do when she is sort of like teased or bothered about her looks. There's another important thing about Shay, which is her fingernail chewing habit. Her nails are described as ragged multiple times, and that's because she bites her nails. And Tally offhandedly thinks to herself that nail biting is one of those habits that go away after the procedure. This is the first time in the book that we get an indication that maybe something internal is happening as well as external when it comes to the operation. In the book, the operation is supposed to be purely aesthetic. So the idea that you could lose a bad habit is the first bit of foreshadowing that something else is going on, that there might be more to this than just a beautification process. So this is a really important aspect of the book. On page 36, when they're messing around with the Morphos, a kind of software that shows them different ways that they can be prettified, we hear her described like this. The high hairdo towered over her thin face like a dunce cap, the white blonde hair utterly incongruous